Salutations and welcome, friends, to another Fastest 2 Minutes here on Trust the Profits, where we have a special guest answer 5 questions about the Kentucky Derby, which is, of course, the fastest 2 minutes in sports. And they're doing it under the clock. And here today, joining me, you've seen her on Talking Horses, you've seen her on America's Day at the Races, international superstar of horse racing, SARA ELBADWI, here joining me today at Outrun the Odds. Sarah, how you doing? And are you ready to go through the fastest 2 minutes?
I'm ready. I prepped. I'm ready to go. Ready to keep it concise. I know that that's not something that is your strong suit since I watched the episode where Colin drills you to try to keep it short for this, but this is a great segment and I'm so excited to be on.
Yeah, no, I can speak to a limit when there is a limit presented to me. However, when there is not a limit presented to me, I become a college professor again and I just start talking on for minutes at a time and monologuing. So, this is not about me, it's about you and your answers. So, let's start off with a fun one. What is the best name in this year's Kentucky Derby?
Oh, it's totally Rocket Can because every time he runs, I throw on some Elton John, and I've been making plenty of puns for his name with the Rocket Man song. And this is one isn't an original, so I got to give Ernie Munich some credit, but I think it's going to be a long, long time before we see him in the winner's circle again.
That is unfortunate because he is actually kind of like a horse that I do really like. But I agree with you that it will be a little while until we see Rocket Can return to the winner's circle. So, one of the things that I know you always like to do, hence your Twitter handle, is outrun the odds. You try to find value. And so, obviously, we don't have the mornings lines yet. We're still a little over about 10 days away from the Kentucky Derby. But as we sit here looking at it now, what sort of horses are you looking at for the best value in this race?
You likely already know my answer, as does most of Twitter, but I got to go with Confidence Game because we know that he's going to be a huge price because of the gap in his races from the Rebel until the Kentucky Derby. They opted not to run before this. They could have gone to the Lexington and didn't want to go there with such short rest. So I know that he's at least going to be a big price.
He is going to be a big price. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know if it's just the repeated Twitter messages that you send or the tweets or what, but I'm starting to warm up the confidence game as well, who just could not have looked better in that Rebel, but we've just not seen him since. And so if you just remember that last race, hard to pass up and for a horse that it will inevitably will be a big price. Well, listen, for every horse that presents good value, there's also a horse that might be a little overhyped in this year's field. So, curious, in your opinion, who is the most overhyped horse in this Kentucky Derby?
For me, it's Mage. I think everybody's going to have
Mm,
him be their wise guy horse, especially for those that are making the argument that if you like Forte, you have to like Mage, who has finished the closest to him so far at a better price. I don't think we're going to get a fair price on him. I think a lot of people are going to be betting this horse as an alternative to the favorite, and it's a lot to ask a horse who's only run a couple of times to win the Derby in what is it, fifth start?
yeah, not even fourth start. He
Fourth
went,
start.
yeah, Maiden, Fountain of Youth, Florida Derby, and now the Kentucky Derby. So it would be a huge ask for him to be able to do that. And he does seem like a horse who I don't know what his morning line is going to be, but I can see him being a horse that goes from his morning line to like half that price, if not even less, and then runs like his morning line. And so, which happens sometimes with those wise guy horses. So, well, listen, you gave us a value, you gave us a horse that might be a little overhyped. Like I said, we're still several days out from the Kentucky Derby. We haven't even had the post draw yet. But as we sit here today, who is your 2023 Kentucky Derby winner?
I didn't want to double up and go confidence game two times, and that will be the horse that I'm betting. But as far as who I think is the likeliest winner, I will say that it is Forte. As the favorite, he's a horse I could never bet, but you have to respect his consistency so far. And I think that he's a standout among this crop from what we've seen from everyone else.
Well, he would be the first horse since Nyquist, I believe, that would double up and win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and followed up with winning the Kentucky Derby. Not been done since, like I said, Nyquist did it, I believe, in 2016. So it's been a little time. And it's not always a very familiar run. And one, honestly, recently, we've not seen those juvenile winners come back well. So glad to see Forte at least running and being super competitive. So if we have Forte as the alpha here, that means there's an omega. Somebody's got to finish last in this race. So, in your opinion, who is the most likely horse to finish last in the Kentucky Derby?
I don't know that he's actually going to finish last, but for me, my first auto toss, which is a question that I just asked on Twitter, is Jace's Road. He's one that had a setup sitting right off of Kings Barnes in the Louisiana Derby, could not get the distance that day with some very slow fractions to stock, and I don't think that he's going to be able to get the distance in here and will face some pace pressure.
Yeah, I see him fading big time. If he faded in that Louisiana Derby behind those slope fractions, then it's going to be faster up front in the Kentucky Derby this year, and hard to see him holding on for even staying in the top half of this field. So, Sarah, thank you so much for joining me, and make sure to give her a follow on Outrun the Odds, and make sure to check her out. Obviously, when she's on Talking Horses, America's Day at the Races, all the sort of great stuff that we see out of you, Sarah. Thank you again so much for joining me on the Fastest 2 Minutes. And remember to like and subscribe all of our content here on Trust the Profits. Until next time, friends, my name is Matthew DeSantis, wishing you a great and profitable day at the races and reminding you it's now post time.